Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm going to be doing another book review, or discussion, or whatever you want to count these as. I don't really think of them as reviews, because I don't consider myself a formal critic, but it's whatever you want to consider it. Before I get into the book review though, the footage you see on the screen is from an old classic war game called Fleet Command. This is the Steam version, but the original one was actually an old Jane's game, some of those Jane's combat simulation games. And if you know anything about Jane's games, you know it's a highly accurate military simulation, this one of naval combat. And unlike most naval simulations, for example the Harpoon series, this game, Fleet Command, includes 3D graphics of ships actually fighting. So you actually get to see the ships fight out the battles on the screen in front of you. The game's old, I don't remember what year it came out, but it is very old, so obviously it's not in the prettiest of shape, and if the aspect ratio is off, I apologize. The resolution this plays in and the recording software has made recording the game a bit challenging. I recorded more than once, and the first couple of times the footage just didn't show up. The audio was there, but the gameplay footage wasn't. So I hope you don't let your eyes bleed too much if the aspect ratio is off while watching this, but yeah. With that said, that's enough rambling, so let's go ahead and get into the book that I reviewed. You're probably wondering, or you already know from the title, what I reviewed. So I know I've been doing a lot of videos on books lately, but I've been reading quite a bit and listening to Audible quite a bit, and several books that I've been reading are books that I think you guys might enjoy. So I wanted to go ahead and kind of share my thoughts with them. In this case, most of the books I've been doing have been a little bit newer, but in this case it's a bit of an older book. The book that I'm going to be talking about is called The Last Ship. It is a 1988 World War III book. Basically, it talks about a hypothetical Third World War. The book was written in published in 1988, and it follows a single U.S. destroyer. It's a hypothetical U.S. destroyer called the USS Nathan James, which in the book is a nuclear-powered, so it has a nuclear reactor, it doesn't rely on fuel, a nuclear-powered guided missile destroyer. And it takes you from the outbreak of the Third World War and its launching of some 12 TLAM-Ns, or Tomahawk Land Attack Missiles, nuclear, each armed with a 200-kiloton nuclear weapon and targeting a Russian SS-18 ICBM field in and around the northern Russian city of Orel, to the ship's quest for survival and search for a safe haven in the aftermath of the Third World War. The book was written by William Brinkley, and as I already said, it was published in 1988. When released, the book was widely regarded as a very good piece of fiction, and was very well compared, very favorably compared to the 1957 classic On the Beach. On the Beach was about a U.S. submarine crew in a post-World War III world where the United States is destroyed during a nuclear war, and pretty much the entire northern hemisphere is destroyed. The only refuge the sub can find is in Australia, but even that locale soon falls to the eventual clouds of radiation, and On the Beach was turned into a major motion picture featuring Gregory Peck. The Last Ship, on the other hand, never was turned into a major film. It did have a very heavily modified TNT TV series, which started, I want to say, about 2 years ago. But that might be because when the book was written in 1988, the Cold War was almost over, so there wasn't really a ton of time between the book being written and the Cold War ending. So I kind of sense that the appetite for a film about World War III and its aftermath may not have had much appeal in the immediate period following the collapse of the USSR. However, despite the lack of mainstream adoption in terms of a film release, the book really benefits from that sort of being written at the tail end of the Cold War. Because, when the book came out, it gave a far more modern understanding of what a post-nuclear war world would look like than a lot of earlier books. For example, On the Beach didn't talk much about nuclear winter at all, at least to my knowledge. I haven't read it, but I've seen the film. The Last Ship talks about nuclear winter in great detail. Vast firestorms, clouds of soot, nuclear rain, nuclear winter. The book describes in great detail some of our most modern interpretations of what a potential post-nuclear war world would look like. And that's because just a few years before the book came out, kind of our conventional understanding of nuclear winter was actually developed. Some of you may know of Carl Sagan from some of his sort of astronomy stuff and the pale blue dot stuff. But just a few years before the book came out, Carl Sagan and a team of some other scientists started using computer models to estimate the climate effects of various kinds of nuclear war. And the findings that they had basically came up with the idea of nuclear winter, these vast temperature drops during a nuclear war that would occur because during the war, huge amounts of soot would be put into the stratosphere, both from the bombs but also from these vast firestorms that would erupt in these cities that are nuked. Because again, not everything is flattened. Huge fires would result. So imagine instead of just a couple of Japanese cities being obliterated by U.S. firebombers in World War II, you have 200 cities like that, and you also have all that soot and dust that's put into the stratosphere, and also the lower atmosphere as well, from all these fires and from the nuclear clouds as well, that ends up blocking out the sun and creating a nuclear winter. Actually, according to some of their calculations, which seem a little extreme for me, parts of the Earth could have seen like a 20 to 30 Celsius, I believe, degree temperature drop against their normal temperatures, which would have been, cataclysmic. And even around the equator, you're talking, freezing temperatures based on their models, which actually the book talks quite a bit about. So it follows a lot of those understandings of what nuclear war would have looked like. These findings, they got into the public. These weren't secret research topics. They got into the public. They were quite talked about, including on mainstream television. And the book shows that. It does seem that the nuclear winter takes a little bit longer in forming than perhaps what Sagan and his scientists said. Maybe a little bit less severe than what Sagan, and his cronies suggest. But it still was there nonetheless. The Last Ship is written as a first-person narrative, so the view that you have as a reader of the book is that of the captain of the Nathan James, who goes by the name of Thomas. We never learned his last name. It's not really material to the book. The book describes in painstaking detail, and I mean painstaking detail, the events of the war, the technical specifications and capabilities of the Nathan James, its Tomahawk cruise missiles, which carry the nuclear weapons, and various other aspects of naval life and the sea that the ship will pass through. I say painstaking detail because the book is long, and not long in terms of the story being long, but long in the sense that the author speaks and writes in volumes of words. The book takes pages sometimes to describe what probably could have been said in a half a page or a paragraph. With that said, the writing style is fantastic, and the various challenges the ship has to face as it navigates a post-nuclear war world and attempts to find refuge is, fantastic and very well done. I think the strongest part of the book is really from about 20% of the way through the book to its conclusion. The book starts fairly tedious, in my opinion, with roughly the first fifth of the book detailing mainly with the captain's concern over his plans proceeding with a mixed female and male crew. The ship has something like 30 women in it, and the first-person perspectives brings us into the mind of an old sea captain who kind of constantly proclaims how little he understands women, and he almost kind of mythicizes his women crewmates, while at the same time exerting many of the stereotypical chauvinistic male tendencies that may have been more common when the book was written in the 80s or even the 70s. The author seems to be trying to paint the captain in a positive light with regards to his treatment of women, but the way he goes about it doesn't feel like it ages very well. It feels very much a product of the past, which obviously it is, and the protectionist, sort of fatherly, kind of all-knowing figure and sort of the angel character that he kind of paints the women out to be is painful to read sometimes. There's a couple of surprises in the book. I don't want to spoil it. I know it's an older book, and you can look it all up on Wikipedia, but there's kind of a point in the book where, based on some things that happen, it kind of also seems to be saying this, this emotional, sort of power-hungry woman reaction that just doesn't seem to fit well with society today. And who knows, maybe that would be the actual attitude of a captain, or should be maybe even the attitude of a captain in a post-nuclear world when he's on a ship with over 180 men and just some 30 women. But it doesn't make it any easier to read. It still feels like a kind of a tedious and unnecessary exposition on detail, but again, that's kind of the way the whole book goes. It's very detailed and puts you in the captain's mind, almost like he's kind of rambling his thoughts as they go on, so it can be slow. I will say the book, however, as I said, the first 20% of the book is really slow and hard to get into. I almost gave up on it, but I kind of powered through, and after you get through that first bit, that first bit where all of this is going on, the book really shines, in my opinion, during kind of the Nathan James voyage after launching its nuclear weapons. It goes through the whole process of launching the Tomahawks. You see him sail off into the horizon. They're communicating back and forth with Navy communications as the war starts. And then as things go downhill and, the world becomes more and more radioactive and communications become more and more difficult, that's when the book really shines. During that voyage, after launching the nuclear weapons, as they move through the Mediterranean and beyond, in an attempt to locate other human beings in what seems to be a devastated world. It describes in heartbreaking detail the conditions of various victims of the war that they discover along their way. It seems kind of odd to me that the book almost has no interaction with other naval vessels. I will say that seemed a little bit odd. It's like there's very little interaction between other naval vessels, which might have been in the same situation as the Nathan James. You would think even if the world was nuked to Kingdom Come, there'd be sporadic contact as other ships attempt to, get back in contact with their home base or with other ships around the area, other American forces, other, Russian forces. You'd think these, scattered and leaderless forces would exist to some extent, and it really is very limited in terms of what you get. It seems unlikely that the vast fleet of the U.S. Navy of over 300 ships at the time would be destroyed without any comms between each other. So it does add to the quality of the narrative, because it kind of feels like the ship is alone in this vast sea. The book portrays very well this sort of loneliness feeling as the ship is trying to find other people, but it also doesn't seem terribly compelling or realistic there either. I haven't read a ton of World War III books, but to me, The Last Ship is a really solid book. It's a bit long, it's a bit tedious. It's not a techno-thriller, though, so, if you're someone who's into a techno-thriller, you want to see mushroom clouds left and right, ships firing off their missiles, engaging submarines, and battling it out, and, these really detailed Third World War, almost like, what was it called? The Tom Clancy book that deals with the hypothetical Third World War between the Soviets and the Americans toward the end of the Cold War as well. Oh my goodness, what is that called? Red Storm Rising. If you want something like that, that's not this. So, it's not a techno-thriller. It's a very slow-paced book that at times borders on philosophy at times. It's a very cerebral read. You're going into the mind of a captain. It reminds me almost like Old Man and the Sea, although that book was more concise. It almost seems like the captain in Old Man and the Sea is like the Marlin that the captain is the captain in this book is almost like the captain in Old Man and the Sea. The Marlin is almost like his crew that he's kind of trying to coax and get to do what it needs to do. The sharks in Old Man and the Sea that come and devour the Marlins, almost like the environment, the oppressive environment. And then the environment and the sea also find a place where the captain's kind of trying to find peace in his own mind and satisfaction and an accomplishment of taking care of his crew. That may not be the best comparison. That's probably unfair and stretching things to a dramatic and excessive degree, so I recognize that. But that's when I read this, I felt like this kind of feels like Old Man and the Sea, just in some of the way that you're really fighting the environment, the hostile environment, and it's kind of the captain on his own trying to figure out what to do and where to go next and how to proceed, and kind of conflicts within his crew about the right direction to take. It's fascinating. It's very well done, but again, it's a long book, and when you're brought into the mind of a captain who's clearly supposed to be this really deep thinker and kind of analyzing all the ins and outs of every potential situation, and they said this, what does that really mean? Can you take things at face value? It almost reads like a political thriller where like you're a congressman or like a House of Cards type deal, or again, in certain circumstances, very much like philosophy. So fundamentally, the book is about a captain of a ship of war in the most dire of circumstances. It's not about the war. It's not about the mushroom clouds. It's not about the conflict. It's about the sea. It's about the environment. It's about the challenges of captain and crew in a very desperate situation. And if you're interested in reading that, if you're interested in reading a detailed and slow-paced book, more about the challenges of captaining a ship in a devastated world, then this book is for you. If you're looking for an action-packed techno thriller, and I'm sorry about that, guys, my phone just beeped. If you're looking for an action-packed techno thriller, don't look at this book. Look elsewhere. This isn't for you. But with all of that said, with everything I just said there, if it sounds like a book you may be interested in, check out the link in the description, in my video description. The link is an affiliate link, so if you redirect yourself to Amazon there, I will get paid a tiny commission if you buy it. But I hope my impressions of the book show you I'm not really trying to press you one way or the other to buy it. I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was interesting. There was a period in the book where I was kind of like, okay, kind of get going. But on the whole, I really enjoyed the book. So if that's something you're interested in, if this sounds like a good fit for you, check it out. If not, hey, thanks for watching the video to this point. But there's, you don't need to buy it or anything. I'm not trying to push it off on you. I just figure, hey, if I'm going to talk about this book, I might as well link you to the product, because a lot of times people ask, hey, where can I buy this? And if I'm going to link you to the book, if I'm going to give you that book link, I might as well make a little bit off of it, for my time. Rather than, Amazon taking the entire cut. I think that's fair enough, shake your fist at the man or whatever, get your cut. So yeah, if you feel like picking it up, check out the link. If not, I hope you enjoyed the video anyway and my discussion about The Last Ship. As I said, TNT currently has a mini-series or a TV series running right now called The Last Ship. They own the rights to the book, but despite having that license and, and what have you, and some similarities there, it's a completely different story. It's a modern conflict. I think it's about a virus, not a nuclear war. I don't get the sense that, the world is devastated to the extent that it was in the book. So there's some caveats there, but yeah, so you could check out The Last Ship on TNT as well, if that interests you. But yeah, I think I've gone on long enough. It's about 17 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed the book review. I put my thoughts together a little bit more clearly with this video prior to the actual recording of it, so I hope that showed. I hope it didn't sound too scripted. I didn't script it. A lot of this was off the cuff, but I kind of brainstormed more than I usually would. So, I hope it worked. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any comments or if you have any thoughts on how this could have gone better or differently, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you like these kind of book reviews where I talk about some things that I'm reading, let me know. I'd like to keep doing them. It's not going to become the focus of the channel, but I might throw a video up there every once in a while. I think I'm up to like 4 book reviews, so, that's great. I enjoy doing them. It seems like you guys enjoy them as well. But that's enough of me rambling now. I've been talking for 2 minutes without saying anything really important, so until next time, guys, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.